Hello and everyone, it's Coach Alex once again, and I am sitting here from my humble abode here at the house. And I'm going to continue our journey into API development. Let's go ahead and grab our solution. So I'm at my computer in my room here. So I need to clone down the solution here. I'm going to clone that down real quick from our GitHub account. And this one's a little bit slower than my other computer is, so bear with me on that one. Then I'm going to go ahead and open up the solution here. And this will take a minute or two. Now, this particular computer is a very small tablet that I'm running on. And just to give an idea of how actually easy it is to run Windows Microsoft Visual Studio, let me show you the specifications of this particular laptop here. It's not even a laptop, it's a tablet. So let's see here. Let me go to Windows System and right click on this PC, say More, and say Properties. And if you see, I only have 4 gigs of memory on this computer. And I have a dual core processor, I believe, on this particular laptop. It's not even a laptop again, it's a Windows 10 tablet. So, and it runs Visual Studio, okay. So if this thing can use it, then trust me, I'm pretty sure that, other, y'all have probably better laptops than this particular one is. So let's go ahead and continue where we were at here. So the last time we spoke, we were actually, we had just created our models, and I actually need to clone down, now that I've cloned down the master, I need to clone down the actual remote branch of that COVID-19 client here. So I need to grab this iteration and check that out. And what that's going to do is going to grab all of the model data and everything else that I did before in the last video. So here's our model classes. So in this particular video, we're going to go ahead and get a connection between our API and our client. We're not going to parse anything out right away. We're just going to grab the connection. So to do that, let's go ahead and do some Googling here. And one way to do that, if we go to Firefox, we'll go Firefox this sucker. I use Firefox for my my browsing. Come on, come on, come on. Now, there's multiple ways that you can establish a connection. Let's do C# HTTP client. Somebody one of my children must have spilled something on my keyboard here because it's a little sticky there. You could do something like that. Okay. So there's multiple ways you can do this. You can use an HTTP client to grab and receive information to and from an HTTP API client, or you can use RestSharp we're going to use a library called RestSharp, and it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it, of calling APIs for us. It is a lot of the heavy lifting, and if you can use it, I would suggest utilizing it. It's got a great way to, it will call the REST API for you and handle all this stuff for you. All you do is you call it, and here's a really basic usage of it right here. You would call the API, and then you would then parse it out using Newtonsoft JSON. So we're going to use the RestSharp API, and then we're going to use the Newtonsoft JSON. I'm sorry, let me go back for a second. We're going to use the RestSharp library to do our actual protocol talking to from our client to the API and back again. And then we're going to use our Newtonsoft JSON library to do all of our parsing and putting all of our client data, all of our API data from the request in a response into our client's objects that we've created from our models. So let's look first at the RestSharp API. So the way to get the API, I keep saying API, the RestSharp library. The way to get the RestSharp library into this solution is what we want to do is come up here to our extension menu and say manage extensions. And it'll pop up this nice little window here, this stubbed in window. And I'm on wireless, so, and up here in the right-hand corner, I'm going to type in RestSharp and hit enter, and it will go out there and look. And it doesn't find anything on the Visual Studio Marketplace, so you just want to say online and do your RestSharp search again. It's not finding it here. Did I say RestSharp? Yes, RestSharp. So, here we go. Anytime you want to grab a library that is very common out there, it's usually going to be located on the NuGet libraries. And so the best way to look, if you see here, it says NuGet up here, and then right above here, above the basic usage, it tells us how to get this package and add it to our library. So this is the NuGet package command that we're going to use. And to grab this NuGet package, hit close here, what we need to do is come to edit, to view, other windows. And actually, no, it's not going to be in there. It's going to be under Tools, NuGet Package Manager, and NuGet Package Console. And then also, since I was looking in the wrong spot, you can also do the same thing under here, under Tools, NuGet Package Manager, Manage NuGet Packages for Solution. And if you click on that, this is where you want to be. I apologize, I was using the wrong menu. So the easy way to do this, since we have the command, is we would just type that command in our NuGet Package Manager console, and it'll go out, download it, and it'll put it into this particular project. Or you can do a browse up here. Make sure your package source is NuGet.org, and you want to click there and search for RestSharp. And there it is. And so you can click this. Let me hide this right here real quick. And you'll notice that it says, hey, what project do you want to add this to? Just click the project here and say install. And then the NuGet Package Manager will pop up. It'll pop this up and it'll say, hey, are you ready to put this into your solution? I'm gonna hit cancel for right now because there's another one I want to install. You know what, let's go ahead and do it. Let's go ahead and do it real quick. So I'll just say, did it install it? I think it might have already installed it anyway. No, okay. So let's say install, say okay. And what will happen is it will download the RestSharp libraries as a dependency over here to our project. And now if we come under packages, we see RestSharp there. We also want to do the same thing for Newtonsoft. So let's go to Newtonsoft. And this is the one that's going to parse out our JSON response. So we're going to click this one here as well. And we're going to install this one as well. And it only takes a few minutes, if that. And it's just going through and downloading the Newtonsoft packages, and it's attaching all of the dependencies that it needs, so that way you can use, excuse me, the package from NuGet. So we've got them both installed there. Excuse me, and we can close this here. So let's go to our main program again. Okay, and we'll also go back to our RestSharp directory here. Let me hook up my phone to the charger. There we go. So this gives us an idea of how our code needs to look to send off a request and to get a response. So I always believe in working smarter, not harder. We've got an example right there. Let's go ahead and do it. Let's grab all of this right here. I'm going to copy that. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a new static method. We're going to make it a Boolean. We're going to call it get info, something like this. And common practice is to put try catches in there. Just put yourself a try catch in there. This is for exception handling. If you don't know what that is, take the Python course. Okay. We don't want to throw an exception, we want to handle it. So now in here, I'm going to just paste my code in there, and I'm going to get some errors. So I'm not using the packages yet here. So I'm going to hit Control period, and it's going to try to bring in my RestSharp client stuff here. And up here, it will automatically do that. It says, hey, you want to do some analyzers and stuff. No, I'm not going to do that right now. Don't worry about that. And then also, it's going to say, give me an HTTP basic authenticator. I don't think we need that because this one's a public API, but we'll throw it in there anyway. Okay. So basically, and then what we'll need is we will need a Boolean value to return from our method. So we're going to just create a Boolean value, bool ret return bool, something like that. And then down here, we'll just say return ret return bool, something like that. Okay. And then I've got to give it a value up here. Something like, there we go. And then down here, I've got to do something here too, because it's a catch and I have to be able to handle my exception. And since it's going to be an exception, I'm just going to automatically return false in there too. And I really don't have to do it that way. I can just return true or false here. Let's just return true if it works. There we go. So now what I need to do, let's go back to our API here. And let's pull that up real quick over here. And again, we're looking for all of the data. So I believe we wanted to use summary, I believe. Nope. I guess that wasn't it. I think it was country. Was it country? Yep, country. And this is the API right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say boom. And that's our JSON data. Right there. It's going kind of slow. So now what we're going to do is we are going to take our API function here, copy that because we know we're getting a response there. And instead of this REST client api.twitter.com being there, we're going to put our API in there. And one other thing we're going to do is we're going to just put this @ symbol in there because, you know, it's a string that we're trying to pass in there. We're going to get rid of the authenticator because it's a public API. We might have to try to mess with this. Okay, so there's our client. And let's formulate this the same way. Let's go back here and look at something here. Okay. So let's use this as an example. I know we're not going to need this authenticator here because it's a public API. So let's go ahead and say var COVID client equals new REST client. And we're going to put our API in there. Oop, not that one. We're going to put our API in there, but we're going to get rid of the summary. We're going to copy this request. And call it COVID request. And we're just going to say country. I'm going to leave that in there. And then in our COVID response, we'll call this COVID response. We're going to say COVID client get COVID request. All right. Now, let's put a breakpoint here. Save our code. And we're going to debug our code. Oh, wait, we've got to actually call our code here, don't we? So we're going to say get info here. We're actually going to call our code here. So we're actually going to put our breakpoint up here. And we're going to start our debugger. And let's see if this actually calls out to our API. So this is going to take a minute or two because this is the drawback of having a computer that's too slow. My computer downstairs goes way faster. I don't know if y'all can see my mouse moving or not. Yeah, it's trying to do something there. It's thinking, it's thinking, it's thinking. It's building the code. Now it's actually going to run the code. And it should go to the breakpoint here now. Boom. Okay, so let's see if this actually works. I'm going to hit F10. Okay, so I've got a client. So I've established a communication with the actual API. I form my request, and I'm going to ask for a response. And let's see what happens here. And I've actually got data back, and it says status code not found there. So that means that we actually communicated with the API, but for some odd reason, our request was not in the right format. And we can see that in here by looking here at our response. And it says it did not find what was needed. Here's our status code right here. Status code not found, content type application JSON. So that must be a header thing that we have to get configured as well. So let's go back. I can stop this debugger window here. So let's go back to our API, see what kind of headers we have to have on this thing here. There's our content type, it's JSON. Our request. So let's go back to the API here real quick, and then let's go over to the documentation. So we established connection. So we're good there. We're getting something back. It's telling us it's not in the right format, but we know we've got to do something different here. Okay. Let's go back and let's double check our code here. HTTPS, API, countries. Oh, that's why. So we don't want to use the word country. We want to use countries. Let's try that. Countries. Is it a capital C? No, it's all lowercase. So let's try it again. We're going to recompile it and debug it. This time around, it should go a little faster. There we go. And let's F10 again. Let's see what we get back this time. Oh, we got data back. We got an OK back. So now, if we go back to our response, here's our country right there. And in here somewhere, we should be able to see the data that came back to us here. Response writer note, let's see. So now what we have to do is we have to parse out the JSON that came back from our response. And so it says content length -1. So the request was good. The response maybe not so much. Oh, wait, let's see. We got bytes back. So, and it says it was successful. We've got data back. Oh, here we go. Here's our data right here. There's all of our country data that came back right there. And maybe I don't want to wrap that, but this is the same stuff that we saw over here in our request. I'm trying to hide the, there we go. It's all the same data that came back right here. So that is what I'm looking at right here. I've got all of this data now right here, in here. Okay. So now comes the job of actually parsing it out and putting it into our model data. And then after we put it into our model data, we're going to want to put it into a CSV file and put it somewhere on our computer. Usually what you do is you take that information and parse it out, and then you insert it into a SQL table, but we're not going to do that here. I mean, I have an SQL table available to me, but I'm not going to use it. So now we've established our communication, and let me do a little bit of cleanup here. We're going to call this one, I don't want to call it get info, get COVID info. We're going to call it get COVID info. Come up here, and this is going to say blah. Okay. And this is going to return, so what we should do, instead of this returning a Boolean value, what we are going to eventually do is have it return in what's called an IEnumerable of our, or since we know we're just going to get one set of global COVID data back, we're going to return a global COVID, an instance of global COVID class to us, to ourselves. And then we would parse through that. So what we're going to do is come down here and change this type from a Boolean to, maybe not. Maybe we won't do that yet. We'll transform that after we get this working a little bit better. But we've established a returns now Boolean, something like that. But we know that we are actually hitting our API, and we are returning data from the API hit as expected. And so it's just a matter of now of parsing out the JSON that came back from the response. And for that, we're going to use our Newtonsoft library. So I'm going to come over here and open up another tab. And there we go. And when you're taking, when you want to deserialize, I always get these mixed up. When you want to serialize something, that means that you are turning it into JSON, or XML or something else. If you're deserializing it, you're turning it from JSON or XML into objects that you need. I believe I have that right. I might have those backwards. I'll have to check. But basically, oh, they've got link to JSON. I might use that too. But what we want to do is we want to turn our, we want to deserialize our JSON response, and we're going to convert it into this right here, something like that, right? But we've got to match up our objects the correct way and then kind of go from there. That will be in the next video. So until then, hope this helps you. Study it, check it out. This is no way, shape, or form the only way to do this, but hopefully this gets the creative juices flowing and questions and all that good stuff. So until then, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Oh, no, that's like a new share. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'll stop recording, and we'll put this video out there. Peace out.